Hey, what's going on, guys? So, some of you may remember a few months ago when I posted my first video of this series. I'm even making my own comic book story about this, which is called DC Comics Enter Our World. DC Comics, please don't sue, by the way. And in this story, several people from our world are chosen by DC heroes to become their proteges, become heroes, and form their own superhero team. And today, I'm going to be continuing that story and going into a few more characters who are somewhat essential to the plot of the overall story here. Now, before I begin, I just want to let you know these ones took a lot longer than the ones in my last video, and I hope that shows because what I started experimenting with in those artworks, I continued experimenting and trying new things in this one, hoping to make my artwork a bit better. So, without further ado, let's get into this episode of DC Comics Enter Our World. Growing up, Alex Toth knew the same amount of DC Comics as any average person would, that being the common things known about Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. He had more important things to worry about, as he was naturally gifted in agility. Because of this, he was part of a gymnastics camp for most of his early life. Then, when the DC Comics Enter Our World event began, he helped Nightwing save a family from the villain known as Two-Face. Nightwing was impressed by his skills and took Alex under his wing to train him to become a superhero, eventually becoming known as the Warrior, the Avenging Knight. As he was trained by Nightwing, he learned many different martial arts styles, but he likes to focus on ones that are more about redirecting than killing. Not long after he started his superhero work, he became a member of the new Justice League, even becoming the leader of his own unique squad known as the Gen 2 League. He also works alongside the Bat League, which was created by the new Justice League founder Bat Knight, and he works alongside Bat Knight quite a lot. When they work together, the two are an unstoppable team of detectives and fighters. And not only that, but he helped create his own unique team outside of the new Justice League, known as the Young Titans. He's also developed several relationships with some of his world's female superheroes, though there are times when he does feel a little overwhelmed. And he's even worked alongside several police officers, creating a good name for himself and becoming an honorary member of the police force. However, while he works alongside Bat Knight most often, the two have had disagreements on what route they should take in superhero work, leading to several falling outs. However, they have always learned to overcome this and work together as a team. While she was growing up, Emma Sweeney always felt very different from others. She couldn't place the reason for this, but she always had a feeling inside of her. Then, during the DC Comics Enter Our World event, it was revealed why. Turns out she's actually a Kryptonian. While it's hinted that she's somehow related to Super Smith, it's never outright explained if they're siblings, cousins, or just relatives. However, while she is a part Kryptonian like Super Smith, her powers are much greater than his for some reason. The only Kryptonian technology that she uses compared to Supersmith is a special mesh weave in her suit that allows her to absorb more solar energy to gain the power of flight. Soon after, she was found by Supergirl, who trained Emma into becoming a superhero of her own. So, Emma came back into the world as Destroyer. While this name was initially given to her by the press because of how much damage she caused, she actually grew to like the name and knew that it could strike fear into her enemies. Not long after becoming a superhero, she became part of the new Justice League through her membership into the Gen 2 League. During her time as a superhero, Supersmith has actually become a bit jealous of her powers, as she naturally has more abilities than he does. However, Destroyer knows that Supersmith has had more training with his powers, and she is very commonly known to be a bit more anger-prone than other Kryptonians. When he was young, Tommy Dell was an exceptionally gifted child, always getting high grades in all of his classes. However, no matter how good his grades were, he always had a feeling that he'd never really get anywhere in life. However, that changed during the DC Comics Enter Our World event. After the initial battle, Tommy was walking home when he found a strange glowing rock on the side of the street. When he reached down to touch it, it imbued him with its glowing energy, and he was taken aback by its immense power. He was then immediately found by Hawkgirl, who revealed that the rock was actually a meteor made of nth metal, an alien metal with the ability to negate gravity and allow a person to fly. And it seemed that Tommy was chosen to be the bearer of the nth metal power. So, he was given a special costume and entered the world as Wild Hawk. Now he has the ability to fly with the help of a special jetpack that also sprouts wings, and the nth metal was actually forged into his club mace, which is his primary weapon to use. However, even with Shiera telling him that he was ready to fight on his own, Tommy still had a sense of doubt, thinking that he was never going to be good enough to fight on his own. However, this changed when they went up against Gentleman Ghost, who took Hawkgirl captive and forced Tommy to free her on his own. Because of this, he was able to overcome his fear, but he still deals with this inferiority complex whenever he has to go on his own. Soon after this, though, he became a member of the new Justice League, being a part of the Gen 2 League. Over time and through many missions, he was able to overcome his inferiority complex, and became a better superhero than he ever thought was possible. Because of this, he now feels that he has finally stepped out of his own shadow and become the successor that Hawkgirl always saw in him. Ever since he was young, Max Bagilio was always fond of the water. It was calm, beautiful, and just watching it helped him to clear his mind. Then, he became part of his high school swim team, somehow becoming one of the fastest swimmers in history, as well as staying on top of his classes. This astounded him, as he had never really been part of a swim team before, and he decided to do some research. However, every bit of research led him to Atlantis, the ancient kingdom that had sunken into the waters. Despite all this, Max still only thought of it as just a legend. Then, when the DC Comics Enter Our World event began, he learned that he was actually part Atlantean, being from his world's version of Atlantis. This blew his mind, as he had never been told about this and always assumed that it was just a legend. He was then found by Aquaman, who showed him the true potential of his powers. Soon after, Max was able to come back into the world as Aquaboy. Though he never liked the name, he did learn to tolerate it at the very least. Among his many powers that are similar to Aquaman, he also has the ability of hydrokinesis, and this power is what he uses most often when fighting crime. He soon after became part of the new Justice League, as he was a member of the Gen 2 League. However, ever since he learned about his heritage, there are now times when Max now distrusts other superheroes, as he knows the damages that have been caused by human neglect. However, he does trust his team enough, and they have helped him to save the oceans from those who would try to harm him. While he was in high school, Jazz Parker felt very different from everyone else, yet he couldn't quite put his finger on why. One of the big things, though, was that he couldn't remember anything before middle school, as it felt like his entire life was just wiped from his memory. Then, during the DC Comics Enter Our World event, it was revealed why. Turns out, he is a Martian who was sent to Earth with his memory wiped. The reason for this was because, unlike other Martians in media, here they retain the memories from their parents and their entire families. And it turns out that Jazz's family was part of an entire war that devastated their world, and he was sent to Earth to keep him safe. However, the trip took a little bit longer than expected, and so his entire life before middle school was completely in darkness, so he didn't remember anything. It turned out that his real name was also Jas Parker. He was then found and trained by Martian Manhunter, who took pity on the young man. Or rather, Martian. After his training, Jas was able to come back into the world and become the superhero known as the Martian Man. He then became a well known superhero for many, though the press and media couldn't get by his appearance. However, that didn't stop Jas from trying everything he could to be known throughout the world as a superhero. And he got his chance when he joined the new Justice League as a member of the Gen 2 League. However, his usual identity of Jas Parker isn't the only identity that he has, as he can shapeshift his body into whatever form he desires. Among his other favorites to transform into are Adrian Castle, Kevin Princeton, and Pietro Arthur, all of whom have different connections in his life. With this ability, he usually works alongside the new Justice League founder Bat Knight, and he enjoys working with him a lot. And it's with these connections in the new Justice League that he was able to become known as a superhero to all. While he was young, Nick Kern was astonished at the skills of a meteorologist and actually wanted to become one when he was a kid. However, he soon found out that he couldn't exactly get to that job, so he decided to do what he could to better himself and humanity. Then, during the DC Comics Enter Our World event, he discovered a way that he could help others in need. He witnessed a battle between Flash and Weather Wizard, and he was inspired by the villain's abilities more than the hero's abilities. So, he fashioned himself his own supersuit that could control the various elements of the weather. He then began work as a superhero known as Seasoned Sorcerer. While he doesn't like fighting crime, he knows that he has to, as it's one way that he can help others in need. However, he mostly uses his powers to try to help other people in starving communities, mostly to give them rain to grow their crops. However, he's aware of the butterfly effect. That being, if he were to change the weather in one location of the world, it would spell disaster for other areas. To combat this, he draws his powers from another dimension, which will have no negative effects on Earth's weather climate. He soon became a member of the Gen 2 League, and in so becoming a member of the new Justice League. While on the team, he usually acts kinda like a meteorologist, studying weather patterns and knowing how they change and how to change them. He also became the leader of his own team known as the Earth 3 League, which is a team based on heroes who come from villains or anti-heroes. However, even with working with high-profile heroes, he still does what he can to help starving countries, usually by giving them a small rain shower to help their crops. While she had a nice childhood, India Harsley was always a little different from everyone else. During her high school years, she always kept hearing voices in her head, but couldn't place a name for any of the voices. However, she knew that she had friends that she could fall back on if she needed any help, and they were always there for her. Then, during the DC Comics Enter Our World event, she was hit with an astonishing truth. Turns out, she is an Amazon, sent into man's world to bridge the two worlds. She was then found by Wonder Woman, who trained India in the ways of the Amazon warriors. Soon after her training, India re-entered the world as her own kind of superhero, known as Indivisible, though there are still some newspaper companies that still get her name wrong, even when she literally spells it out for them. While she then started her superhero career, she always tried to be more of a diplomat than a fighter, as she never really liked violence itself. However, that's usually the route that most of her missions go on. She then became part of the New Justice League through her connection of the Gen 2 League. As she's more peaceful, she serves as a diplomat between the New Justice League and government officials, usually acting as the liaison for the heroes. This has actually led her to become an honorary federal agent, and she has gone on many missions to other countries to try to keep peace in the world. I really had fun making these, and I know for a fact that I'm going to be doing a lot more of them in the future. I really did take a lot of time to try to make them better than I have in the past. So, leave a comment. Let me know if you want me to do more DC Comics Enter Our World videos, or if you want me to do art of something else. And leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time. Take care.